Very good afternoon to all of you. Good. In the next hour, we'll talk about the AS syllabus. Actually, air pollution control is a very big and complex subject, and the syllabus has a very big and diversified coverage. What I can do is just to give you a brief introduction to the topics. The first topic in the syllabus is the nature of atmospheric pollution. These represent the basic knowledge that we should familiarize with. For example, the temperature, pressure, density. They are the basic physical parameter of our atmosphere. And also the radiation, we should also know the significance of the radiation, in particular the solar radiation on the atmosphere and the atmospheric motion. We all know the chemical composition of the atmosphere, both in the natural environment and also in the polluted environment, just like Hong Kong and other urban cities. And we know the definitions well, and also what is the particular pollutant, chemical, gaseous pollutant. And we should also know why some of the pollutants are defined as the toxic air pollutant, what is the threshold, and how we deal with differently the threshold and non-threshold pollutants, especially in setting up the acceptable level. Radioactive and biological contaminants, although they are not reported on a daily basis, they could impose significant health impact, especially during the radioactive fallouts or the epidemic. One radioactive pollution that frequently overlooked is the radon. Or in Hong Kong, due to the extensive use of granite material in construction, we may encounter high radon level, especially in the indoor environment with poor ventilation. And odor is a properties of the pollutant. At least we should be able to name some of the major odorless pollutants and their odor characteristics. Okay. We should also need to have some basic knowledge about the pollution process that determine the atmospheric, determine the fate of the air pollution, like the transportation, dispersion, dilution, transformation, and scavenging process. Among others, methodologies have a very great impact on our air pollution level. Among others, the wind is the most important methodological factor. We should know that the effects of wind and other methodological factors such as rainfall, humidity, solar radiation, and cloud cover. And also the effects of the topographic feature. In Hong Kong, we have a very complex topography. This is particularly important. And you should know the effects of the sea land breeze, mountain valley breeze, how they affect our pollution level. The vertical motion, vertical air motion is also very important.
At least we should know some of the parameters that affect the vertical motion, like the lap spray, atmospheric stability, the mixing height, and how they affect the plume rise and the plume behavior. Among other meteorological conditions, temperature inversion is one of the conditions that are most susceptible to air pollution. At least we should know the different types of inversion, the causes of inversion, and how they affect air pollution. And also we should be able to apply our professional knowledge to understand the spatial and temporal variation of the pollutant due to the meteorological effects. Air pollution can be of different spatial scales, the local, regional, and global. In Hong Kong, we are suffering mostly from two major issues: the local pollution, like the roadside pollution, and the regional pollution, especially those from the Pearl River Delta. For regional pollution, photochemical air pollution is the most important one. But at least we should know how the secondary pollutant, like the ozone, the PAN, are produced from the precursors, the VOC and NOx, under sunlight, and what are the meteorological conditions that favor the photochemical oxidation, and the changes of pollution concentration during the atmospheric days. Acid rain, dust storms, and ancient dust are the typical example of long-range transportation. And this, we should know some of the basic, the causes, the effects, and what are the responses and mitigation actions we are taking to deal with the problem. Globally, there are three major issues we should need to know about: the global warming, the ocean depletion, and persistent organic pollution. At least we should know the causes, the pollutant responsible for this problem, and the global responses and action taken to mitigate this problem. Indoor air pollution is often an issue we overlook. Well, as an environmental professional, at least we should know some of the basics of the indoor air pollution. For example, what are the major indoor air pollution? What are the health risks? What action can be taken to mitigate, improve the indoor air quality? For example, increasing the ventilation, control the source, or cleaning the air, as well as a general understanding of our indoor air quality certification scheme. The second topic in the syllabus is air pollution source and impact. This is also a subject we should all familiarize with. We all know well the anthropogenic source, the man-made source, from the big on source like power station to the smaller source like the restaurant and food cooking. And we should know their emission. What are the major emissions involved? The mobile sources, which often are more important than the vehicle because they have closer proximity to us. And also the vessel, due to the successful control of other sources in Hong Kong, now vessel has become the biggest source in Hong Kong. We should know what are the major sources, what are the major air pollutants involved. For the sources, some emissions are emitted through the not well-defined exhaust. They are referred to as a fugitive source. We should note some of them and how we deal with them in a different manner. We all know well the natural source,
Mother Nature also emits a lot of emission from volcano, wildfire, earthquake, and in addition, some species, tree species, also emit the VOC that could participate in the photochemical oxidation. We know well who are the receptor of air pollution, and we should also apply our knowledge to understand the source-receptor relationship, both in spatial and temporally. In our urban setting, well, the health effect is the most important adverse effect, and at least we should know what are the major effects and how they affect us, which organs are mostly affected, who are the vulnerable people, and why. And for particulars, the significance of the particle size. The smaller size will cause greater damage to us, as well as which pollutant has the longest risk, the largest risk to impacts on that. And we should also know something about the non-health effect, including the damage to vegetation, material, and lake acidification, and others like visibility impairment and odor nuisance. We should also have some basic idea on some medical concepts, like the life expectancy value of life, and a little understanding on how we quantify the health benefits and the environmental damage. The third topic is air pollution modeling. This is an important topic because modeling can help us to better understand the air pollution by predicting the ambient concentration under different scenarios. We should know how the model works and how it serves different purposes, like the screening, planning, and compliance checking, compliance assessment. We should know the major features, assumption, application, the limitation of different models, from the very simple one like the box model, the Gaussian model, or to the more complex and more sophisticated model, like the photochemical models, which involve also the chemical transformation, the physical process, and that could be used for more detailed analysis and predictions of the air pollution level. You should also know some other special models like the physical model, which involve the use of wind tunnel to simulate the physical process, the computer fluid dynamic models, which aim to solve the partial differential equations through the numerical techniques. Another type of model is the receptor model. It's different from the others. It aims to quantify the source, identify the source by the statistical procedures. The other topic is emission inventory. It is important because not only because it serves as the input for the model, it is also an essential part of air quality management because it helps us to understand what are the most important sources, what are the biggest sources for effective control. It can be described in a simple term that is a multiplication of the activities and with the emission factor. But while we should know how best we can choose the emission factors and other parameters to avoid garbage in and garbage out. And we should also have some knowledge on how to allocate these emissions spatially and temporally for input in the model. Every model has its limitation. We should know what they are and what are the sources of uncertainty so as to make the best use of the model for predicting the evolution levels for different purposes. Other than the receptor-oriented model, like the receptor model that aims to quantify the source by analyzing the chemical composition, well, most of the models are emission-based and estimate or predict the concentration at the receptor. Well, in Hong Kong, well, the EPD developed the PARC model, an upgrade recently, and for use to predict the evolution concentration at various domains. Like other modern air quality models, it involves a different module. It starts off with the input module, define the boundary conditions, and then the other models include the meteorological model, emission models, and the chemical transport model to predict and estimate the concentration at the receptor. Air quality forecasting is important because it could help the public, in particular the susceptible population, to be better prepared at the beginning or during the evolution episodes. We should know how the evolution models and other techniques, like the statistical techniques, help to make a good forecast of evolution. The fourth topic is air quality management and strategy. This is an important subject, even though not all of us are the government officials. Well, a good knowledge of our management strategy is important so as we could help to support good policy and criticize the poor policy. As a golden rule, prevention is always better than cure, so the best strategy, of course, is to prevent emission. But still, we need to have a comprehensive control and management program. We need to know the basics of different air quality management strategies, their philosophy, applications, etc. The first approach involved is the best practical means approach, also known as the best available control technology or technology forcing approach. Well, in essence, it requires the maximum emission reduction so as to achieve the cleanest possible air. The other approach is the air quality standard approach, which has been widely used nowadays, including Hong Kong. Well, it first define the acceptable level and then achieve this required level through the implementation of necessary control programs. The third approach is the market-based mechanism. It allows the flexibility to the polluter to implement their most cost-effective means, including emission trading. The last approach is the cost-benefit approach, which aims to minimize the total sum of pollution damage and pollution control costs. In formulating the policies, well, there are also a number of socio-economic and political issues we need to address, as well as some principles need to observe, including the polluter pays, environmental equity, sustainable principle. We should be aware of this principle, and in implementing the policy, well, we can do it through regulatory approach or the non-regulatory means. We should know what basic means available and how and why they are used. We should also need to know the difference between the air quality and emission limits. The PSD increments, nuisance criteria, what are the differences and relationship among themselves, and the purpose, and how to set up, what are the basis for setting up these different limits. In terms of air pollution publicity, Hong Kong is a forerunner in using the Air Quality Health Index to enhance the public awareness. Well, we should at least know the basic principle of how the Air Quality Health Index are calculated, how it's disseminated, and how it helps the public to prevent the health effect during the episodes. The fifth topic is air pollution control technology. Well, it is important elements in the air quality management strategy for the obvious reason. Again, the priority in the emission reduction is emission prevention or emission reduction. In terms of process level, this can be done by the change of the process of emission equipment and changes of the fuel, changes of raw material, and improve the energy efficiency. If prevention is not possible, then we have to control it at the exhaust pipe in the chimney. That well, we can use the different types of control equipment. And finally, to render the unavoidable emission inoffensive and harmless through the proper dispersion. For gaseous pollution, there are different types of control equipment we should aware of, and we should know the working principle, application, the design, and operation requirements, including the absorption, or what we know as the scrubber, which aims to remove the gaseous pollutant by transferring it from the gas phase to the liquid phase. A typical application is the flue gas desulfurization system in the power station for removing the sulfur dioxide. Absorption, which removes the gaseous pollutant by absorbing to the surface of a solid. The most common one is the activated carbon. It's useful for removing the VOC, the organic pollutants. And condensation is another type of equipment. It aims to convert the pollutant to the liquid phase by lowering the temperature. But this equipment usually has a low control efficiency, but they are often used as the preliminary device for reducing both the waste gas volume as well as the concentration before entering the more advanced control equipment, like the incineration, which aims to oxidize the air pollutant by application of heat. is mostly used for removing the organic substance. The efficiency depends on the temperature, preference, excess air. For particular pollutant, well, similarly, we should also need to know, well, their application, the design, the operation requirements, and limitations. Well, for particular pollutant, in addition to the concentrations and the quantity of the emissions, we should also be aware of this particle size. The smaller the size, the more difficult they can be controlled. We should know the basics knowledge. We should have basic knowledge of the different types of control equipment, including the simplest one, like the cyclone and inertia separator. In general, they have no control efficiency, but they serve as a good pre-cleaner so as to reduce the loading for the more advanced control equipment. Another type of equipment is the best scrubber, which impact the particulates by the liquid particles. The efficiency usually is also low, except for the Venturi scrubber, which involve high pressure liquid droplets. So they are usually used as a pre-cleaner and also to lower the gas temperature before entering the more sophisticated control equipment like the electrostatic precipitator, which involve the charging of the particles and collecting in the collecting phase after neutralization. They have been extended use in the power plant as well as a small operator like the cook restaurant for reducing the cooking fumes. Another type commonly used is the backhouse, which has a very high control efficiency, widely used in the power plant, incinerator, as well as other dusty operation in cement and other mineral process works. Combustion control is another means that can be used for reduce the emissions that are formed during the combustion. For example, the NOx, which are formed from nitrogen and oxygen during the at high temperature. They can be done by either reducing the combustion temperature, such as that used in the low NOx burner, or decreasing the air supply, like the use of low excess air and flue gas recirculation. But well, to meet the modern day stringent requirement, using combustion control by itself is not sufficient. We still need to use flue gas treatment like the selective catalytic reduction. Of course, there are other effective means like the change of the process and equipment, or changes of the fill material and the raw material. They all have to reduce the emission. For mobile sources, well, we should know the difference between the spark ignition engines and the compression ignition engines and the emission involved, as well as the significance of the air to fuel ratio on the emission level. And we should also know what emission control measures are available to reduce emission from the mobile sources. They include the capturing the emission and modifying the engines, have the exhaust recirculation for reducing the NOx, change the fuels to cleaner fuel. The type L control. For petrol vehicles, the most common equipment used is the three-way catalyst. For diesel engines, when the control technique involves the use of selective catalytic reduction for NOx control, and also the PM filters for reducing the particulate levels. And also the use of low emission vehicles like the electric vehicle are the effective means to control the roadside emission. Another aspect is the inspection and maintenance. Well, we should be aware the significance of the maintenance in the maintenance of the vehicle maintenance, because an improper maintained vehicle could emit much higher emission than the well-maintained vehicle. The traffic management could also play a significant role in the control of emission from the mobile source. We should know the basic means available and their effectiveness. For vessels, it has become the largest emission source in Hong Kong, and the government has been doing very seriously to reduce the emission from the vessels. We should be aware of the available control means and the international and local requirements, including the control of the fuel sulfur, the requirement of switching the fuel while berthing, and the implementation of the emission control area. As well as the aircraft, we should be aware of the international practice in reducing the emissions. As an environmental professional, we should also make sure that we will not transfer one pollution to another. So we need to minimize the waste generation and reduce the waste, and if the waste is not the generation of waste is not possible, then we need to observe the relevant requirements of the waste and water legislation. And we should make sure that the successful pollution control involve the proper planning, the adequate design and provision of the control equipment, proper operation and maintenance. So, it's always advisable to implement a structured environmental management system so as to ensure a successful control of the equipment, of the pollution. The last topic is ambient and emission sampling. Good, reliable ambient data is very important for us to understand our air pollution issues, so as to identify the best solution, as well as to monitor the effectiveness of these solutions. So we should know how we design, operate an air quality monitoring system to achieve different objectives. Representativeness and accuracy are the two basic requirements of air pollution monitoring. We should ensure that the monitoring station has adequate spatial representativeness, and the sampling trains are designed according to international requirements, just like the US EPA requirement. We have a good choice of the monitoring parameters. If, for example, in area with high ozone problem, we should also monitor their precursors, like the VOC, the aldehydes, and acetone, and the citing of the monetization should be in compliance with the international requirements. To ensure the accuracy, we also need to have a proper designed and operated air quality monitoring system that conforms to the international requirements. Again, the sampling method, monitoring method, we should use the reference and equivalent method acceptable internationally, including the US EPA. We should know what these methods are and what are the difference between the reference method and equivalent method. Methodological parameters are necessary for us to help us to interpret the evolution data. Well, mostly they are done by the observatory, but at least we should know what parameters need to be measured and how they are monitored. For the emission sampling, we should know the basic and should have basic knowledge about how the emission sampling trains are designed and operated. Again, the representativeness and accuracy are the two important and basic elements and we should ensure that they are done at the representative sampling location. That is a location with laminar flow without turbulence. We should do as many transverse points according to the international requirements, and the sampling should be conform to the international or US EPA requirements. For particulate sampling, well, one additional factor we need to aware of is the need for maintaining the isokinetic sampling. We need to ensure the sampling velocity is same as the flue gas velocity. Because of the inertia of the particles, if the sampling velocity is too fast, well, the particle cannot follow the gas flow, and that will lead to a negative pressure, and vice versa. But very often we are not sample the total particulates. We only sample the PM10 and PM2.5. So we have to cut off some of the particles. That will impose difficulties, because to achieve the design cut diameter, we have to maintain a fixed velocity. And this problem has to be solved by the constant rate sampling or exhaust gas recycling. We should know how they work to address both the need for isokinetic sampling and also the need for achieving the desired cut form diameter. All this is necessary because the particle size has a significant impact on the sampling accuracy. In addition, we should also be aware of the need for sampling the condensable particulates. They are emitted and will condense out in the ambient air after the dispersion, so to contribute significantly to the ambient PM2.5 level. We should know how they are sampled and determined. Now, to meet the need for ascertaining the continual compliance and to determine the exceedance, well, often we use the continuous continuous emission monitors. We should know what they are and the working principle, and to ensure that they are conform to the international requirement, the US EPA, the requirements. The optical remote sensing has become more and more popular in the ambient air monitoring. We should at least keep abreast of the development and what they are involved with, what techniques and application they are. And also, instrumentation, the data acquisition system are the major components that we should be aware of. And on data reporting, one point we need to know is that well, they should be expressed at reference condition to ensure the compatibility, as well as to avoid the use of excess air for achieving the so-called emission compliance. Quality control and assurance are the must for both the ambient and emission sampling. Well, at least we should know, we should have the knowledge about what are the basic elements of the QA and QC program and what they are aimed for. And also we should know the difference between the real-time monitoring and the intermittent or the grab sample, and why the grab sampling are sometimes still used for the air quality monitoring. Finally, well, we should be aware that sampling, both ambient sampling and emission sampling, would involve the use of hazardous materials, and we should make sure that all the health and safety requirements are fully complied with. Well, apart from the study guides, just Alexis mentioned, well, it is always a suggestion that we read through some commonly available textbook and have a browse of the website of the EPD and other international agencies, so as better prepared for your examination.